What is going on? This is Tyler Smith with Intrinsecus coming to you with episode 3, where we are building culture, building minds, and building ourselves. Disclaimer up front, I'm not here to degrade or to demean anyone. I'm here just to start conversations. And while those conversations are happening, make sure you like, share, comment, and subscribe. And then once this is on other streaming platforms, make sure you like, follow, or subscribe on that platform as well. Social media is in the description of this video. Now, I'm going to try to keep this short. I think this is my 45th attempt at recording today. I have not been lucky at all. My brain has just not been there. I don't know if it's the lack of sleep. I don't know if it's the lack of carbs. I'm trying to diet. I don't know what it is, but hopefully this one works. So today we're going to go over 2 quotes, a story, and then a snippet from the Odyssey. So that's kind of the agenda today. So sit back, listen, and hopefully you take some things out of this. But I do want to open up with a story that I have, an interaction I had with a young lady. Long story short, without getting too much into her personal life, I went to the gym. This individual I've talked to maybe 6-7 times, but the last couple times we've kind of clicked, as cordial people in the gym. So we have a little side banter when I come in, no big deal. But as this time I come into the gym and I'm eating a pre-workout snack before I drink my pre-workout and put my gym shoes on and everything, she comes up to me and says, "Hey, I've had some epiphanies." And I go, "Okay, what's up? What's going on?" She tells me that she was talking to a guy and it ended because it was toxic. I was like, "First off, congratulations. I'm happy for you. Thank goodness you got out of a bad situation." She said, "Yeah, thanks, appreciate it. But I had a conversation with one of my friends, with one of my girlfriends, and it lasted about 5 hours. I really did some, self-reflection and digging. She helped walk the dog on a lot of key issues, and I realized that I'm struggling to have mental connections with people, and I've been reducing who I am to attempt to make friends, and then when I do make friends, it's an empty relationship, and then I feel a void, and it's just not working all around." So without going into personal details, that's great that you are able to recognize that. And we talked on the issues of why she feels like she's reducing herself and why she feels like she can't sustain a intellectual, exploratory conversation with a lot of people. And at the end of it, she accepted a lot of those reasons and said, "Hey, I need to change my environment." And is now attempting to change her environment to meet better or at least like-minded people where she can have those, again, exploratory conversations that are mentally stimulating and the like. Now, you might be asking, "Tyler, why are you telling us this?" This is a podcast about intrinsic motivation and living inwardly and unplugging from the matrix and all those good things. The reason why I bring this up is only because it's a key example of something bad happens, you look inwardly, you address it, you rationalize it, you then apply the rationalization or the solution to yourself, and then you move forward. That's the best thing to do. One is a really good example, and that's how intrinsic people should be operating. Instead of looking for outward influence to change, we say, "Okay, what inside of me needs to change?" And you do self-talk, self-love, self-actualization, whatever phrase you want to use, and then you go ahead and improve. Now, I have a quote by Edgar Allan Poe. Again, author from the 1800s. I covered him in the last episode. And I think he has a quote that really ties into the story and really ties into what I'm trying to bring as a culture to not only YouTube and streaming platforms, but just the internet. So he says, "Never to suffer would never to have been blessed." Translation, cliche translation, you can't know light without the dark, and you can't know good without evil. That's a cheesy, cliche translation. So bring it back to the story with the young lady. If she didn't go through that toxic relationship, there would be no suffering for her to realize what wrong looks like, and then understand what right looks like, and then she'll never have the opportunity to change to get to right. So as people are going through these situations of self-change and maybe unplugging from the matrix, because when you unplug, there's going to be some suffering. If you quit nicotine, you quit cigarettes, there's going to be some suffering. If you're an alcoholic and you quit, there's going to be some suffering. But through that suffering, you become blessed. You become better, stronger, and all the like. And then you can appreciate the new light because you've been through the darkness. It's a cliche. It's a really cliche to open up this podcast, but it is a real-world example of how someone I talked to that I helped walk the dog on personal issues was able to experience suffering, acknowledge suffering, understand the suffering, and then change herself to improve the outwardly situation. Is now looking, again, for her, now looking to change her environment and change the people she hangs around so she can experience those mentally stimulating conversations and be around people who improve her not only emotionally but also intelligently as well. So going to the meat and potatoes of this podcast, everyone, or hopefully a majority of people have heard of the Odyssey written by Homer. If you're ever in literature class in either middle school or high school, or even college, you may have read this book. It's an epic. It's a story. It's an epic story. And pretty much the main character, his name is Odysseus. He's a well-respected warrior returning home from the island of Ithaca from the Trojan War, and it's a 10-year, I believe it's 10 years to get home. And through the 10 years, he's going through all these trials and tribulations, dealing with gods, dealing with other creatures. And then all while that's happening, his wife is getting hit on, and his son's trying to protect the mom. It's a real Young and the Restless type story. But the chunk I want to get to is one of the trials and tribulations he dealt with while going home was the sirens. Now, you guys may not know what sirens are. Long story short, it's these creatures, and depending on the artist, they're either these like 80% bird things with human heads, or they're mermaids, or they're, I don't know what they are in some paintings. I've seen a lot of paintings where they're just different creatures. In a lot of movies, they tend to be mermaids. And I think in one of the Pirates of the Caribbean movies, they had like I think it's like one of the later ones, they had a scene with sirens and there were mermaids and stuff like that. So beyond the point, these are sirens who are beautiful creatures, and they lure men in with their voices, and then they kill them. They bring them to their demise, right? And I want to read something. It's a translation from the Odyssey, so bear with some of the wording and how it sounds. But I think the meat and potatoes and the heart of what the story is about really connects to the culture I'm trying to bring. So again, just a scene setter. Odysseus is coming home from war. There's these straightaways, or the straits, that he needs to sail through. And on one of the sides of the straits is the island sirens, and he's expecting to see these sirens, and they're going to try to lure him in. And one of the other characters in the book told him to put earwax in all his crew's ears so they don't hear the sirens. But for him to be a tough warrior, he needs to hear the sirens, but his crew is going to tie him down to the mast of the ship. And then as he begs to be released from the mast, his crew is going to tie him down even tighter. But it's like his trial and tribulation to go through the straits and hear the sirens and not be able to do anything about it. But that's beyond the point. I don't want to get too much into a book essay or a book review. But what I do want to do is read a snippet. So this is one of the other characters talking to Odysseus. So it goes, "First he will come to the sirens who enchant all who come near them. If anyone unwarily draws in too close and hears the singing of the sirens, his wife and children will never welcome him home again, for they sit in a green field and warble him to death with the sweetness of their song. There is a great heap of of dead men's bones lying all around with the flesh still rotting off them. Therefore, pass the sirens by and stop your men's ears with wax or stuff. Again, it's a rough translation to current English. So it goes, and stop your men's ears with wax, that none of them may hear. But if you like, you can listen yourself, for you may get the men to bind you as you stand upright on a cross piece halfway up the mast, and they must lash the rope's ends to the mast itself, that you may have the pleasure of listening. If you beg and pray the men to unloose you, then they must bind you faster. So it's really rough translations from the original writing. So long story short, he's being told that he's going to go by this island with these sirens. They're going to enchant him. There's dead men there. There's rotting bodies there from all the other men who've passed. Put stuff earwax in his crew's ears, and then they need to put him up halfway up the mast, tie him down, and when he begs to be let go, his crew should tie him down tighter. Again, you guys may be asking, Tyler, why are you bringing this up? I'll tell you why. How many of us have sirens in our lives and we need to tie ourselves down so we can make sure we don't lose track or get off the course? I'm going to say it again. How many of us have sirens in our lives that will distract us and take us off course? I think fiction has a great way of helping us rationalize the world around us and connect with the world around us in a different fashion, in a different way that makes it a little bit easier to comprehend. Because we can all think about something that's a siren. We can all think about something that if we do not take heed to certain warnings, we will fall off track. So if you're an entrepreneur, think what the sirens can be, and those dead bodies that you see are other entrepreneurs and their goals dead. So what can distract you as an entrepreneur that would lead you off course or off your azimuth or whatever phrase you want to use, and your dreams and aspirations die? That is where I'm coming from with this piece. Again, it's a rough translation. I apologize, but the story just reminds me of all the trials and tribulations that we as people go through. And we all have ourselves, but then within ourselves, we have the crew, quote unquote, that supports us, right? So you have your inner voice that is in your brain, but then you have all these other functions of not only your mind, but your body as well that support you. So imagine your crew is your hands, your feet, your body. What do you need to do for your crew for them to take care of you? If you're a fitness person and the crew is your body, how are you going to take care of your body so your body takes care of you? And then what are the sirens to bring you off course, right? It could be cheap foods, it could be, going out to eat, drinking, whatever. This is what I think is really interesting and I think is really powerful, that as we go forward, we always need to understand what the sirens are that can take us off course, and what do we need to do? How do we need to hold ourselves down to the mast? And when things get hard, how do you hold ourselves down tighter? And this is a question that we need to answer for ourselves and no one else can answer. Someone can give us advice, like the other character that gave Odysseus the advice, but at the end of the day, we are the ones who control our own ship. We are the ones who control our own narrative, sometimes depending on the situation, but we control our narrative. We control our own ship. We're the captain of our own ship. We handpick our crew. You handpick the traits and the skills you need to have to achieve your goal. Make sure you take care of those skills. Make sure you take care of those traits, and then they'll take care of you. And the last thing, this is kind of just an extra bonus, and this quote stuck out to me just because of some of the nonsense I'm seeing on social media lately. Well, not lately, just all the time. And it goes, madness is rare in individuals, but in groups, parties, nations, and ages, it is the rule. And the reason why this stuck out to me is there's very few times individuals go bat-ish crazy. Yes, there are some individuals that are just bat-ish crazy, for sure, but it's rare. It's the exception, not the rule. But for some reason, groupthink is a real thing, and it's on social media. It's everywhere on the media. So as you go to unplug from the matrix, and as you go to reconnect with who you are and not the facade of the world, just remember that when you see madness, usually groups, parties, parties, and nations are following behind it. It's not an individual thing. So do not be easily caught up in the madness, as it is tempting, and usually as it is socially engineered, and multiple people within Facebook and Twitter have admitted it. Sadly, just remember, don't get caught up in it, guys. But like I said, I'm keeping episode 3 short. Hopefully we will have some longer topics coming up next week, and hopefully we'll have some guests. You never know. Thanks, guys. Remember, like, share, comment, and subscribe.